welcome to the Fantasy Flyer. It's time for another episode. As always, in the Fantasy Pad, my name is Derek. With me, as always, my esteemed co-host Taylor. Taylor, what's flying?
This cold's flying away. I'm feeling a heck of a lot better. So
Thank God.
yeah, hopefully really get to watch some games and actually enjoy them this weekend. And if I can get my son to sit still, maybe he'll watch some with me.
Okay, there you
It's
go.
I
Share a little
usually
family time.
yeah, I usually try to watch the like condensed versions because it's like nonstop action as opposed to like, commercial break here, uh taking 30 seconds to like come up with the play, whatever. And he's like,
Chris
well,
Collins,
I'm out of
yeah,
here.
Chris Collinsworth going. Now here's a guy. Um, no, that's good. That's a good little. That's a good way to get him as he's growing up to love the football. So.
Yeah.
Um, if you're here for the Fantasy Flyer, again, please, if you haven't, like the page on Facebook, give us a follow, give us a like on YouTube, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, follow us on Apple Podcasts if you're away from your computer or you're on your phone and you can listen. We always appreciate any and all of the feedback. Right now, we're going to kick it off with our usual 9 segment: news, injury notes, etc. There's a lot of etc. And I think we should actually have a solid conversation about it. So I'm actually going to lead off real quick on the general because there's no team news itself. I'll let you take the teams, but we have to talk about the absolute breaking news that's not breaking news now. About 24 hours ago now, it's 9:45 Eastern here on Friday night. About 24 hours ago, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, everyone and their mom had a giant panic attack and also great elation for Christian Mccaffery, who is now a San Francisco 49er, as he was traded for 4 draft picks, a 2023 second, third, and fourth, and then a 2024 fifth, if I have those correct.
That sounds
Um,
right.
yeah, I mean, this is an offense that has been slouched. Christian McCaffrey's good for him. Good for the 49ers. I like the matchup. I think I said it. There's no, I think I said it. That's like my favorite phrase. I said it the other day. It's going to be to a team who is on the cusp, and that's the 49ers. I also said that he wouldn't be a Panther on Tuesday, and it took about 48 hours for that to come true. So,
Yeah.
yeah. What was your first reaction to that? Because I was in the middle of the Thursday night game, watching it on my phone, and I got the Twitter, and I was just like, wow, that was quick.
Yeah. Well, first I was a little annoyed at my own advice to not grab Foreman or Chuba Hubbard. Um,
That's
so
fair.
yeah, that was unfortunate. But honestly, I think it's going to be a bit of a committee, and that team is obviously in a pretty crappy situation for anybody that had any fantasy relevance. So I don't know how much I really care. But in terms of the San Francisco side of things, like to your point, they're a team they have pieces and they're like, I would say before this they were probably going to make the playoffs, but I wouldn't have said they would make the Super Bowl. And now they have a player like McCaffrey that is phenomenal all around. He definitely fits the system. It's just a matter of, at least from a fantasy perspective, Debo probably doesn't run as much, which honestly he said he didn't want to before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So that's
like hopefully that's a good thing for him, but definitely hampers his normal baseline a little bit.
yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a great fit for the team. I think it really gives the team a great shot, and I still don't really know if I would say that I'm not going to say they're one of my Super Bowl favorites, but it definitely pushes them strongly to having a chance.
Yeah. The one thing that helps Christian McCaffrey on a fantasy side is when he was with Carolina was his volume.
Mhm.
He may not be a touchdown machine some games, but you could count on him for 8 to 10 targets. You could count on him for 12 to 20 carries, and that's going to get you fantasy points. Um, it looks like that will probably be hindered slightly, as well as a little off the top from everyone else. Obviously, you have to find 8 to 10 targets to go somewhere if he's going to still require that share. And that would mean probably 1 to 2 less per game for Kittle, Debo, Ayuk. I think that he's a good fit. If, as far as the Super Bowl comment on a football field aspect, taking the fantasy out of it, I think they are the NFC's Bills, because this team, the offense isn't moving, and we've seen that be a problem.
Yeah.
I don't think the running back itself, just replacing Jeff Wilson or Elijah Mitchell or both with Christian McCaffrey is going to immediately fix things as far as making the offense go to number one. But you look at the defense being number one, and it's like the opposite of what the Bills are almost, where their defense isn't quite number one, but their offense moves the ball because they have all the tools. Comparatively, I feel like they are a repackaged offense from the Bills. You have the exact same talent spot, your exact same talent quality, just in different spots.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like that makes them, especially with Jimmy G not being a deep ball thrower, like they scheme players open, and Christian McCaffrey is, obviously he's not someone who takes it, 40-yard passes very often. So, especially when you're getting it thrown to you by Baker Mayfield and PJ Walker. So, I really like the trade. I think that the 49ers got a steal.
Yeah.
I know a lot of folks are talking about Christian McCaffrey being injury prone. I don't care. Don't care. I know from personally owning him from a fantasy side of bringing that back into play. I know him well. It almost correlates directly on the field. From a fantasy point of view, I owned him in 2018 or 2019, and he put up like 30 a game. So I don't think there's any. He can do just fine. I know he's been injured. It happens. So I like it.
Yeah. I mean, before the last 2 seasons, he was actually pretty solid and not injury prone.
Right.
So you would hope maybe it's more of an unlucky situation the past couple of seasons. Obviously, I don't want to jinx the guy, but been fine so far this season. It is kind of like a bad perfect storm. He's going, if you want to consider him injury prone, he's going to a team where running backs get hurt, and I don't want to put that on him, but it's like putting all these things together, it makes it feel like it's more likely. But at the same time,
Right.
Before the past 2 seasons, like I said, he was pretty healthy, and like you said, 30 fantasy points every game. So I think, like we've been saying, the workload may not be quite the same. I think that he'll probably get in the realm of like 20 carries a game plus or minus. It's the receiving part that they don't necessarily do that as much. They may try to do that because he's very good at it.
Right.
And I think going back to like the team as a whole, Jimmy G is really the biggest thing that's holding this team back, because they have a phenomenal running back that is literally 1 or 2 tiers above what they previously had. And like those guys were perfectly fine in the system, but they're just not this talent.
Right.
And now they have that solid piece. They have some good wide receivers. They have an amazing tight end, but Jimmy G just doesn't. He's a game manager, a good game manager, but he's not a great quarterback. He's not a phenomenal quarterback that's going to be able to work the ball amazingly, especially down the field. So it definitely holds the team back a little bit.
That's fair to say. That's probably assuming they don't make it to. I mean, it's fair to say this was a move to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Again, and looking at it from that point of view, if they don't get there, you have to say that's probably. I mean, Trey Lance is still there. Trey Lance didn't show a lot of promise in 3 games. Whether that may change next year, okay, fine. But that's going to be where you're going to look at. And then next year it doesn't go well, you're definitely looking at Trey Lance, because you're going to have Debo, who's got another 2 years left in his contract. Christian McCaffrey's contract is up. No, he signed an extension.
Mhm.
2 years ago. So okay, but you're still looking at that quarterback position. So
yeah,
from the other side, back on Carolina's Swamplands. and what's being left of them.
Yard
DJ
sale.
Moore, yeah, the yard sales. That's a good way to put it. DJ Moore likely to be traded. And it seems like at this point, between Robbie Anderson, who had ulterior motives to be traded, Christian McCaffrey going for a load of picks, DJ Moore being the lone remaining.
Talent.
Yeah, that's a fair. I mean, it sounds harsh, but
Yeah.
Being the lone talent left, it sounds like Carolina is going to go through an offensive repurposing, repackaging, and based on how it's looking this year, it's going to be probably 2 years worth of one. Because you can imagine Baker's going to be gone. Actually, there's no imagining, he's gone. His contract's up at the end of the year, and I'll be surprised if he finds anything close to what he was getting paid. PJ Walker can stay back up if you're fine. Sam Darnold, I don't know his contract situation, but I would not be surprised to see them just be like, all right, Matt Corral, like when you get healthy, obviously he's not, but when you get healthy here, because we drafted you and we're not going to keep the other two. So we'll see if you can be something of the future too. So DJ Moore, let's see, Vikings, Packers, and Giants were small list of teams that could be interested.
Oh wait, are you talking about OBJ?
No.
Are you still talking about DJ Moore? Okay.
DJ Moore, yeah. Packers and Giants most likely, because the Packers, I mean, I don't know why you would really, but if Randall Cobb's out, you're now missing Christian Watson. Spoiler alert for the 9 segment that you're about to host. He's not playing this week again. Yeah, they probably need some help on the receiving side, so that'd be nice. There's no Devontae Adams, but it's something. And then OBJ in discussion with Vikings and the Chiefs. There's rumors of other teams such as the Packers, which again, same reason that I just said. Anybody who Aaron Rodgers can throw to who has experience and Aaron Rodgers thinks he likes for 6 to 7 minutes per game could probably be a wide receiver. So interesting stuff. As we get closer to the trade deadline, this 9 segment is going to take a slight change, and then it will change back after the trade deadline. Trade deadline is November 1st. It is a Tuesday, and we will have an extended trade deadline segment on that particular show, so we can go over all of the moves, big or medium. We're probably not going to go over the small ones that do exist, but if it's fantasy relevant, we'll touch on it. Anyway, I'll let you take off with the regular 9 segment. It is the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. So just a reminder, we said this on the Tuesday show, but week 7 buys Bills, Rams, Vikings, and Eagles. So make sure to pull those guys out of your lineups. So for Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins, his knee injury, he is out and actually expected to undergo another surgery. Could miss 4 to 6 weeks. That really stinks for this guy. Young, talented, and unfortunately had a handful of setbacks here. So you feel for the guy, but I guess that means Justice Hill if he's healthy. Obviously Kenyon Drake, who had a great week last week. Yeah, we'll see what they do there, and it obviously depends on who's healthy for them. And then when Gus Edwards comes back, maybe I don't know if he'll take over or not. Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews are both questionable. Looks like Mark Andrews missed practice Wednesday and Thursday, or maybe just Thursday, and then on Friday he was a limited participant. So that's kind of, I guess if he missed practice on Thursday and then was a limited participant on Friday, it's not necessarily trending in the wrong direction, but being a late sort of downgrade in health in the week is makes me a little weary as an owner of him in one of my leagues. So have to keep an eye on that. I mean, we obviously just talked about Carolina and the trade and potential trades. You really don't have anybody you want to play there. Maybe Foreman or Hubbard, but I'm probably staying away. And I say this because Baker is doubtful, and that probably doesn't affect a lot of people. It looks like PJ Walker will start again, so doesn't pose or doesn't bode well for the team. Dallas, both Dak and Dalton Schultz, yeah, are not on the injury report, and they should be starting. I don't think I saw any definitive words saying that they were starting, but it seems like that's the case.
Other than Dax.
Was that confirmed?
Dak. Well, it wasn't confirmed unless you asked Dak. Somebody asked Dak in an interview. I think it was right around yesterday's practice, Thursday's beginning of like before Thursday's practice. They said, Dak, who's starting on Sunday? And he goes, I am. So actually, he was medically cleared. Wait, did I see something? Keep going, and I will update you on this because I actually, now that I said that, I feel like I did see something. So keep going, and I will.
All right, we'll come back to that. For Denver, Russell Wilson hamstring is questionable, and Coach Nathaniel Hackett said on Friday that it could be, or it'll probably be a game time decision. So I'm sure a lot of people are out on Wilson, so this probably doesn't affect too many people, but it does obviously affect the receiving options, or just sort of the team as a whole and how fantasy relevant everybody else is, depending on who would step in, which honestly, who is their backup?
Which team? I'm sorry.
For Denver, Johnson or
Ripien.
Ripien?
Yeah. And he took first team reps on Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're prepared. They're prepared for him to play. I'm going for it as if Wilson will play.
I think so too. He usually wants to tough it out and play through everything. Which again, if he is hurt, who knows how that affects the team. I guess it would, since it's a hamstring, I would imagine he'd be okay with, or he would be as good as he has been throwing the ball. But it would hamper his ability to sort of scramble.
Right. I did find that Dak thing real quick just to update you. The exact quote. He says he will start Sunday versus Lions. Prescott was medically cleared on Wednesday and has no limitations with his grip on the football.
Nice. Yeah, I did see that he was medically cleared.
That's about as close as starting as. I mean, Mike McCarthy's been saying we're going to let him kind of tell us, and I would hope he would tell Mike before he tell everyone else. Yeah, as far as Russell Wilson, I mean, they got to go through this game on Sunday. They play the Jaguars on Halloween Eve in London, I guess. Right? It's a 9:30 a.m. start, so I'm assuming that's in London. And then they have a bye week, which usually happens after teams start going to London. So it would help if they had a bye coming up because you could say play it and see if it gets worse. It's just kind of a downer to see that. I mean, he didn't play amazing, but he didn't play horrible against the Chargers.
Right.
It wasn't like he was okay. So, and the team looked decent for the first time in a while. Honestly, I think that tight end matters.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe I'm saying that. And I don't think Dulcich is the answer to all, but another weapon helps. So that's just my take on it. Sorry, continue.
No, totally. Detroit coming back off the bye. DeAndre Swift is still questionable with the shoulder, but before the bye, they were basically saying that they were going to wait to the bye and probably have him come back. So definitely monitor that, but I think that the team's probably going to play him. Amon-Ra St. Brown is off of the injury report and expected to play, so that's great. Josh Reynolds' knee, he's questionable. DJ Chark ankle is out. We mentioned this earlier, but for Green Bay Packers, Christian Watson hamstring and Randall Cobb ankle are both out. Cobb is expected to miss 2 to 6 weeks. So they definitely need some options there. So I guess for this week, it's basically Dobbs and Lazard and then Tunyon. I would imagine that they would try to get Aaron Jones more involved. I I don't really know why they're not utilizing him as much, especially in like the dump offs or screen passes or whatever, because he's very explosive if he gets an opportunity. So yeah, I'm not really sure what Green Bay's doing. So I'll leave it at that. Houston, Brevin Jordan ankle is questionable. I mean, I don't know that many people were playing him, but you might.
What, Brevin Jordan?
Yeah.
So I know why so many folks were playing him when last year.
No, I just meant in general this season. I don't know how many people are actually playing him.
Oh, I mean, none.
Tight ends are such a
I
crapshoot.
sold them high before we went into the season because, I mean, honestly, I actually thought he'd play more, but he has been dealing with that ankle injury since week 2, and I
Yeah.
almost feel bad for him because he's a spry young gentleman, and unfortunately, you now have to deal with the weighted waters that are Jordan Akins and OJ Howard. But if he plays, it's not going to get much better because you're probably going to see a combination of the 3, so zero dependability there for me.
Yeah, I would agree. For Indy, Jonathan Taylor is not on the injury report and should start. In fact, I'm pretty sure I read something that he was actually cleared and fine to play last week, but I think he decided to not or expressed that he didn't want to play, and so they played it safe for another week. So
Was it a bad choice?
for him to not play in terms of like Deion Jackson having a great week.
No, it was bad for you because you left him in your starting lineup.
Well, yeah,
But it wasn't. That doesn't help. But from an actual football standpoint, Deion Jackson went nuts.
yeah,
So we're fine.
yeah. I don't think that. I mean, he's Jonathan Taylor. I don't see them being like Deion Jackson's phenomenal. We're gonna.
Yeah, no. At this point, no. He's like, I took a week off. We're good.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, hopefully the team seems like they're trending in a good direction and like starting to figure things out. So hopefully that bodes well for JT. Jacksonville, they are their wide receiving options are beyond Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones. I don't really know who I'm interested in playing there, but Jamal Agnew knee is out, so
Evan Ingram.
Evan Ingram, yeah, he does get a lot of targets actually.
Well, he should because it's the Colts and it's my year-long thing. I think I'm like 5-1 on tight ends versus the Colts. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go back to Evan Ingram.
yeah. I mean that's always a thing that, especially with tight ends, if you have a good matchup, feel free to drop who you have if they're not Kelsey or Andrews and find whoever has a good matchup. But yeah, so Marvin Jones is questionable. I guess the point here is just with Agnew out, he was getting more looks for Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, especially if Marvin Jones is out. Las Vegas coming off the bye week. Unfortunately, Darren Waller hamstring is out. So, I mean, Devontae Adams could get even more targets. Renfro hip is questionable. Mac Hollins heel is questionable. I don't know how serious these injuries are for these guys, but beyond those two and Waller, like who else do they have besides Adams at this point? Like,
I mean, the next one is, and he's been cleared off the injury report, is Foster Moreau, who they've been using more in the past game before Waller got hurt.
yeah,
So that's a plus side. And honestly, he'd probably be a sleeper. After that, you have the very trusting hands of Keelan Cole and the Miami Dolphins corpse that is Albert Wilson.
Albert Wilson. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't know if I would. I don't know who I would have between the two of those, or if I would even play either of them.
It's their DFS dart throws at best.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not putting them on my fantasy 5. I'll tell you that. Honestly, you'd have a better chance out of those two and Jakob Johnson, their fullback, who's already seen solid targets in back-to-back weeks before the bye. Not solid targets, but a couple targets. You could probably take a stab at him. Keelan Cole had one big catch, but other than that, I have no interest in any of those two, any of the three, really.
Yeah. Oh, and I knew I was forgetting somebody for Jacksonville, Zay Jones. So yeah, if Agnew and Marvin Jones are out, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram should see an uptick. And I think honestly, I might favor Zay Jones as the benefactor since Kirk may get the number one cover.
Well, Kenny Moore, we talked about this when they faced off against the Chiefs in week 4. Kenny Moore has been giving up yards and touchdowns left and right, so I wouldn't run away from Christian Kirk at all. Zay Jones is still a target magnet, but there's really, in my opinion, there's no real strength between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily fade Kirk, especially since people probably paid a decent draft capital for him, but he has been a little disappointing as of late.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed.
Moving on to the Chargers, couple of guys with concussions, Donald Parham, Josh Palmer, they are both out. So hopefully for this team's sake, Keenan Allen is back. Hamstring injury is still questionable and being viewed as a game time decision. But I mean, if Parham, Palmer are out and Allen doesn't play, I mean, you got Mike Williams and Gerald Everett. I don't really know who else I would.
DeAndre Carter.
DeAndre Carter, I guess. Yeah, he did have a couple of good games.
When there's no Palmer and when there's no Allen, his targets go up like 30%.
Yeah.
And now you're really going to see it. Although, spoiler alert for my start sit later, you want to start Gerald Everett because Seattle allows a lot of yards to tight ends.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I think I would. In this scenario, if Allen is out, Everett I would see as the number 2 behind Mike Williams.
Yeah, and I don't hate on that. Another thing to comment on Keenan Allen. I'm trying to find where it was. He has Chargers offense will be around upon him. Keenan Allen is a game time decision. If he does play, words are difficult. He'll likely be on a pitch count. Keenan Allen also noted that if it was up to him, he's not afraid to wait until after the bye on week 8.
Oh, interesting. That says a lot coming from the player.
It does. I think they need him against Seattle, but
yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing, Joshua Kelly is out, so you would see obviously Eckler and then maybe a little bit of Sony Michel, but hopefully that bodes well for Eckler. Man, this is quite the long injury segment, so I'll try to speed it up a little bit. Miami, Tua should start. Waddle, shoulder questionable. New England, I don't know that you really care about these wide receivers, but Aguilar, Bourne, limited in practice on Friday, questionable. Mac Jones, questionable. I would say Mac Jones probably won't play, especially since Zappy's been perfectly fine. Why not give the guy more time to heal up? Damian Harris not on the injury report, so that bodes well for him, but still kind of seems questionable. So I'd keep an eye on that. Giants, Tony still out, Galladay still out. I don't care. Jets, Elijah Moore, he's not active. He wants to be traded. They're saying that trading is not an option for him. So complicated situation there, but he's not playing this week. So I guess not that you cared. He wasn't getting any targets. Pittsburgh, Pickett, Freiermuth cleared concussion protocols and are set to play on Sunday. Seattle, Tyler Lockett, hamstring, questionable. Take this with a grain of salt. Pete Carroll said he has a really good chance of playing. Pete Carroll's always optimistic.
He'll play.
I think
Tyler
so too,
Lockett.
but yeah, exactly.
He'll play.
But definitely keep an eye on it if you're a Lockett owner because Pete Carroll is very optimistic. Tampa Bay, Jones still out. It looks like I saw something about them playing the long game in terms of his health. Whatever.
He's 33.
Yeah. Right. You have to, but I don't know how much. Like you have Evans back, you have Godwin back. I guess he might help a little bit, but whatever. Cameron Brate is out. And this is actually a little bit significant as he was somebody that
Carded.
Brady. What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, carted off
I was
with
gonna
yeah,
I was gonna point off his injury, and now he's out with a neck injury, which is not a good sign. But you're going in a
right.
different direction. I'll
Well,
let you.
that's true too. But as he, from a fantasy perspective, somebody that Brady trusts, has a rapport with, um, and it looks like K. Otten, the rookie, is probably where they'll go, which just simply means that I don't know if he like is trustworthy, 100% trustworthy in the blocking game. What the rapport is with his like routes and how Brady trusts getting him the ball. So just a little bit more of a negative for Brady. Tennessee, they're kind of hurting in terms of wide receivers. Kyle Phillips, one of their other rookies, is questionable with a hamstring injury. So, I mean, Henry is going to be their game plan going forward. And I'm drawing a blank on the other
Dontrell
running
Hilliard.
back. Yes, he's been getting some targets in the receiving game. So him, Woods, Westbrook, probably the receiving game. And then finally, excuse me, Jahan Dotson, questionable, Logan Thomas out, and we mentioned this on Tuesday, Carson Wentz out, Taylor Heineke starting. Oof.
Taylor Heineke's. Yeah, a long. This is bound to happen. You get a lot of notes. It's like I said, it's only going to get worse. That's why, like I said, when it comes to the trade, we might do two shows. I don't know. We're going to talk about that when we get there. But this is the next like 3 weeks is probably going to be like it's the fat part of the season, and there's a lot of meat on the bone for our 9 segment. So that's why we break it down. Well done, well done. Real quick, we'll go over the Thursday night football review before we take our first break. We didn't even preview this show on Tuesday. We missed it. Apologies from all of us here at Fantasy Flyer. It happens. You lose track of your time. Saints and the Cardinals. I put the Cardinals down on my weekly sheet for the little pool that we do. I put the Cardinals down. I probably would have told you the Saints, and that's me making myself feel better if I'm wrong. Because it looked like Andy Dalton was very good. He was moving the team. The Cardinals didn't look good. I know they had DeAndre Hopkins back, but obviously he hasn't worked with the team in a couple weeks, or has only worked with them for a couple weeks, and he's getting back into the speed of things. No, all wrong. All of those things were very, very wrong. Andy Dalton gave up 2 pick sixes on 2 passes in the second quarter. Which there's the Andy Dalton we know, right? Like that's okay. Took 3 games, but we got you. I don't know why they didn't put in Jameis, who was active. He was.
Oh, was he? I mean,
Yeah,
his back is pretty effed up from what I hear.
yeah, he's active. He healed. He practiced I think he practiced in full Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So, but I figured that was what. No, they kept Andy Dalton in there, and then to their credit, Dalton. Those are really 2 of the only interceptions that were harmful. The third one was kind of more insignificant, thank God. For Arizona, obviously their defense was a little bit more spry than New Orleans was. New Orleans gave up 42 points in this game. Well, actually, I shouldn't say they gave up 42 points. That's a lie. They gave up 28 points. Andy Dalton gave up the other 14.
Yeah.
But DeAndre Hopkins makes a huge difference for this Arizona Cardinals offense. 10 catches, 103 yards, mammoth night on a return, had 14 targets. Yeah, I'll sign up for that. If you camped on DeAndre Hopkins since the draft, you're probably pretty happy. Benjamin had a fantastic game. When it wasn't Hopkins, it was basically Benjamin. That's basically he got a touchdown snuffed from him in the first half, but came back with one in the second. Benjamin 12 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. He had 4 catches for 21 yards in the air. The ground game was moving pretty well. Kyler Murray 204 yards passing, only had the 1 touchdown, which went to a wild Greg Dortch that appeared. Everyone forgot about him. Once Rondale Moore came back, he literally was relegated to kick and punt returns and just sat there. Now DeAndre Hopkins was back. They got Robbie Anderson, who did play a snap, by the way. He did have a target.
He did 1 target, yeah.
1 target. Didn't catch it, I don't think, but he's 1 target. And Greg Dortch was just sitting there, and I guess Cliff Kingsbury was like, why don't we try this? They won't guard you, and they didn't. Worked out very well. 2 interceptions. The touchdown returns from Isaiah Simmons and Marco Wilson. Just honestly, it was a momentum changer.
Yeah.
That's really where it was. They were down within like 5 minutes. They scored a touchdown, and I think it was very close to tied at 14. And then the 2 pick sixes happened back to back. And for someone who missed that portion of the game, just turned back and was like, wait a second, it was 5 minutes ago. It was 14-14. Now it's 28-14.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened. For New Orleans, Andy Dalton, 30 for 47, 361 yards. I would not have picked the over on any betting platform for him in that game, but alas, here we are. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Alvin Kamara, 11 carries, 49 yards, had 7 catches for 56 yards. Don't know who he called a bad name to not get any goal line carries. Olave, 7 catches on 14 targets, 106 yards. Juwan Johnson is your touchdown maniac of the week. 5 catches, 2 touchdowns, 32 yards. And Derek wins $160 off of this football game. So. FanDuel for the win. For the record, and I just want to state this so it's everywhere. I had Chris Olave over 63 yards, Hopkins over 63 yards, Kamara over 35 yards receiving. The Saints within 8.5 points, so it was 42-34. So that field goal was a nice little touch. There's and I forgot what the other one was. Rondale Moore. Yeah. Rondale Moore under 47. So I think a lot of people were trying to pick him up because he had 99% snap share last week. Boy, were they disappointed. And 2 targets, 1 for 31, and he caught it in like the first quarter too. He's like literally like, oh yeah, great start, and DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have that. So, we're gonna take our first break. We're gonna come back with the Week 7 slate review. The extended first part of this video will be accompanied by the few games we can take a break on bye for. But we will start off with the Lions and Cowboys when we get back. Taylor, take us to break, please.
See you on the other side.
And welcome back to part 2 of the Fantasy Flyer. Taylor, of course, is with me. After an extended 9 segment and a Thursday night review, we're going to jump into the Week 7 slate preview. Lions and Cowboys will be the first game that we tackle. Dallas 6.5 point favorites as of this afternoon, over under 49. Dak with the return versus Detroit's booming offense, except for against New England. I have to say, I think this over-under and this point spread is justified. We saw what happened when pressure gets to Jared Goff and he doesn't have all of his receivers. Because it's basically going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe Josh Reynolds, TJ Hawkinson, and then Khalif Raymond this week. That's about what I get. Maybe Quintez Cephas. I don't know if he was even on the injury report or whatnot, but Lions are 32nd in defensive efficiency. Good game for Dak to come back for. They had the least amount of sacks 6 weeks. I know they only put for 5 of those, so that's fair if you bring that up and you just said that in your head. Detroit defense has allowed a league high 167.6 rush yards per game, despite also having a very similar number. I think they have 150 some per game on average. So I think the biggest help for Dak coming back is Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. This past game kind of has gotten away from the running backs. Obviously, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, smiles on their faces as well. Deep balls, perfectly placed passes. Words are still difficult. Cowboys defense has allowed 98 points. This is an interesting stat, and I wrote it down. Cowboys defense have allowed 98 points through 6 weeks, which is the 3rd least. However, they've allowed 399 offensive plays, which is tied for the 3rd most. So they are making offenses work. I think per point per play, they're leading the league, and it's not even close because of that. I believe the other two, the other team that's tied for third, which I believe is the Bills, and whichever the other two teams are literally at like 130 or 140 points for the similar amount of plays. It's not even close. So the Cowboys they're putting in the work, and that's okay. It's going to lead you places eventually. The offensive, well, you have to say eventually, because as a Cowboys fan, I can't sit here and tell you that they're a Super Bowl team right now. They ain't.
No.
You know, all in all, good matchup for Dak in return. My start is for Gallup. I'm sitting Jared Goff because I don't think this is a good game to come back from bye from. We saw what happened against one defense that isn't even as powerful as the Cowboys defense is. Then again, we also saw what happened when they faced the Eagles in week 1 and they almost won. So I'm going to take the I guess the momentum side right now, which despite losing last week, I think Dallas has more momentum than Detroit does. Anything from you for this one?
No, I don't think so. Hopefully Dak comes back and really gets this offense going. But to your point, it's a good matchup to start off with against the as I've said before, porous Lions.
Are you, as an owner of Dak, are you playing him in 53 this in our dynasty league this week?
Yeah, I kind of have to because of Kirk Cousins being on bye and.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That'll do it. I mean, it's, again, I think that's going to be, I would not be surprised to see him throw for 403.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't against this team. And to be fair, Goff could throw 350 and 3. I mean, it all depends. It all depends on how they attack. If they get through the Detroit O-line, which is solid, it's shown very good strengths at times. So
yeah.
Next game, Falcons in Cincinnati, which I think when I read the show plan, I wanted to check and make sure this is in Cincinnati. Cincinnati favored 6.5 points, over under 47. That leads me to believe it is in Cincinnati. Falcons are coming off a huge win. You're nodding your head, so I'm assuming that is indeed in Cincinnati. Okay. Falcons coming off a big win versus San Francisco, probably prompting them to go trade for Christian McCaffrey, and that's the only reason, and not the fact that they were close to winning a lot of other football games too. Falcons have come into a stout red zone rushing defense. Cincinnati's only allowed 2 rushing touchdowns this year. Bengals defense is also allowing the lowest completion percentage so far this year at 56.6% to opposing quarterbacks. After seeing Marcus Mariota's 13 for 14 last week, I think it's fair we bring that up because it may not be enough for him to be that good. They may actually have to depend on some midfield rushing and some red zone passing.
Right.
As for the other side, the Bengals offense seems to kind of be cooking. Jamar Chase must start. Hayden Hurst is all set to go. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are Higgins and Boyd-like. Jamar Chase had a big game last week, 120. I'm close. 122 yards.
132.
32. I was close. I was almost there. Atlanta secondary also unfortunately has been advantageous. You saw them pick it off twice and return one for a touchdown last week. I believe they have 5 interceptions on the year, which isn't bad. So 6 interceptions. There it is. Unfortunately, they've also allowed the most passing yards and the second highest completion rate. So lines up for the Bengals at home to take a W here. I'm going to start T. Higgins. That's going to be my not so flyer. That's not a flyer at all, but I'm starting him over Boyd. I'm actually going to sit. It's interesting. I'm going to sit Drake London. I think the completion, and I got into it on the football Facebook group, a football life, with somebody who said stats don't mean all that, and I'm like, well, you know what? Stats say he ain't gonna play well. So I'm gonna take the line on it. Kyle Pitts, however, if he is playing, I didn't see him on injury report. I would line up Kyle Pitts because it can't get worse. Well, I guess it could. I guess if he doesn't catch a touchdown. But anything else on this one from you? I'm taking the Bengals in this one. I don't have a score for you because
Yeah. I mean, I would also take the Bengals for sure.
I'd even take the over on that. I'll take the over. Bengals and over. I meant over their spread. I think they cover.
Yeah. Yeah. I could get behind that. Hopefully Mariota can play like he did last week. But Pitts just is not getting enough targets, so he's very touchdown reliant. And then Drake London's kind of trending in the wrong direction, both production target wise. He
And now matchup
was
wise.
right now matchup wise. He was a little injured. I don't know if that's played into it, but his snap percentage is down from in the 80s to 67 the past couple of weeks, and his targets, I guess they've been basically around like 4 or 5, more like 4, I guess, other than week 2. So I don't really know. Yeah, I'm not too into any of the Atlanta options.
Yeah. The one thing I will say though is that they're changing London around. They're trying to do something.
Hmm.
It probably realistically over those same time frame, you're seeing Olamide Zacchaeus become a solid option.
Hmm.
So I think they're trying to introduce another weapon, and you have to do that with Cordero Patterson out. If you can
Yeah,
successfully do that now when he comes back week 9, week 10, now what do you do? Because you're going to face it. Do we pack the box on Cordero? Do we line up 2 on one side for London, and then you got to deal with Pitts? Do you leave? You know what I mean? It brings about questions. So I have to like that decision by the Falcons.
yeah. It does seem like they're also Atlanta running the ball a lot. Algier with 15
Yeah,
attempts and Huntley with 16 attempts, so combined over 30 attempts rushing for those two guys.
yeah, they are a rushing team, and that is and between Mariota, who
Right.
all right, option 1 gone, option 2 gone. Well, here's a gap here. Let me run for 6 yards. Just as
Yeah.
good. I'll keep the drive going if I can. So that's smart. I imagine they will probably still take that approach given the pass defense that they are facing and the completion percentage struggles.
Hmm.
I don't see that changing much this week. Also, makes me want to sit Drake London. So,
Yeah.
Colts at the Titans is our next game. Tennessee 2.5-point favorites over under 42. I don't think I really agree with either of those. Maybe the over under Tennessee being a favorite in this one. I had the Colts by 2 or 3 points in this one. But I'm not Vegas, so I have several questions, and they're fair, but they also have Jonathan Taylor back.
Yeah.
um, Matt Ryan, can he continue this Colts turnaround? We saw a huge game last week. The week before, he played decent. It didn't win, but he played decent, and got him to within a touchdown at a point. Ryan was the QB2 last week. Alex Pierce and Paris Campbell surged and more or less won in terms of touchdown and fantasy points. More steady. Paris Campbell had a huge top last week. I mean,
Hmm.
like top shelf top. Um, how many targets did he have again? I don't have the show plan up. I remember what we wrote it down. He had a lot of 11 targets.
Yeah, nailed it. 11.
11.
Caught 7.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Just for that, I'm gonna, and he is my start for the week. I'm gonna go back to him.
Yeah,
I
the
think.
other thing there, he had 100% snap percentage, which is crazy.
Yeah.
He's
Oh
actually been
wow.
trending in the right direction. 92% the week before.
Yeah. So I'm going right back, and now you got to pull out 7 targets for Deion Jackson. Now, obviously, Matt Ryan probably isn't going to throw 58 times again. So if you wipe those two numbers out, if he throws 45 times, you're going to see 8 targets to Paris Campbell. I'll take it. Uh, let's see. JT's back. Dion, I don't know why. It's because I wrote this before I got the JT news earlier today. Titans are coming off their bye week. Treylon Burks is still on IR. I think they need another weapon.
They do, yeah.
It's Derrick Henry and on and off Robert Woods, and that's about it. Sporadic yards from other people, but Nick
Yeah,
West.
I feel like they need to fire up Austin Hooper a little bit more. I don't know why they haven't gotten him involved.
I mean, there you go. It's uh, Colts. They don't play. Yeah. I am now. I'm not gonna say it. I said it too many damn times. Last time I took that option though, Hooper had like 2 catches, so he's the one that I lost.
Yeah.
Woods and Henry lead them. It's rather an important divisional matchup in terms of the standings. This is I believe it's the second matchup between Tennessee and Colts this year. And or is it second? No, second between. It might be actually.
Yeah.
It is second. So after this week, they will be done playing the Jaguars and done playing the Titans. They played both games against both of them in the interdivision. So it's
That's
up to the
crazy.
other. Yeah.
Yeah, they
have it
played
set
the
up that way.
Colts 2 weeks ago, and the Colts won 24 or no, they won 24-17. The
Yeah.
Titans.
That was the game that Matt Ryan came back because they looked like garbage in the first half, and then he played much better in the second and got him to within a touchdown. But the AFC South is up for grabs. Just point blank. The Jaguars have slouched for the last 3 weeks. These two teams, the Colts are what? Are they 3-3?
3-2-1.
3-2-1. That's right. They're the tie in week 1. So 3-2-1. The Titans are 2-3.
They're 3-2. They had the bye week.
3-2. That was backwards. And then the Jaguars are somewhere in between those two. So make of it what you will. I'm going to start Paris Campbell. I'm sitting Robert Woods, despite the fact that on my dynasty team, I'm almost forced to play him. It's either him or Olamide Zaccheaus, and I kind of have to play him on the hopes that he might trip, fall, and stumble into the end zone. Anything else for this one? I'm going to take the Colts in this one. I don't like 2.5. I don't like where Tennessee's been. I think Matt Ryan found something last week, and it might just be throwing the ball 745 times. More importantly, I think the offensive line found something last week.
So. Yeah, no, I also like the Colts. And I mean, I like the Campbell call. I also like Alec Pierce. I mean, on paper, the Colts look significant. Yeah, the Colts look so much better, especially after last week. So hopefully they did find something. It wasn't a fluke, and I like a lot of options here for the Colts.
Alec Pierce is another one I'm forced to start because I have nobody else. That's not a bad thing because I've been starting him for 3 weeks, and I still think by the time you hit week 12 to week 14 in that range, he's going to be getting 8 targets a game. He's going to have touchdown red zone potential. He's going to have over the top potential. It's going to be it'll be something special. That's my opinion on it. Moving along, Packers at the Commanders. Green Bay 4.5-point favorites in Washington. Over under at 41.5. There's a lot of question marks in this game, so I don't have a lot of notes. I'll just be perfectly honest to start off this segment for all of our Fantasy Flyer fans. We know the Packers got stunned by the Jets last week, and that's actually stunned is, like I said, it's probably overstating it a little bit, but the Packers did not play well. You asked earlier, why don't they get Dillon and actually, why don't they get Aaron Jones in the passing game?
Yeah,
and that'll help out with the run game and AJ Dillon, who's a little bit more downhill, I think, and Aaron Jones is a little more side to side.
Yeah,
that'd be my categorization of their running styles. Ron Rivera was on NFL Sirius XM radio and kind of said the same thing. He kind of said, yeah, the one likes to go down, one likes to go left and right, and you got to balance those two. And going back to our point earlier, if there's not enough weapons in the secondary, it makes it a lot easier to balance. The Jets kind of let Robert Tonyan run free, and Dillon and Jones went nowhere. Granted, the Jets actually have a really good offensive line or defensive line. Excuse me. We'll talk about that momentarily. But if they have if they can continue to move the ball in a different way, I guess, than what they have been, I think you're astute when saying that Dobbs and Lazard and Tonyan are their only 3 options. You need to invite Aaron Jones in. You got to do something different. Like we said, we just saw with the Falcons, change something because you ain't playing all that great. What is the Packers' record? Do you have the standings up with you?
I do. They are 3-3 actually.
And the Bears are 2-4. Or the Bears 3-3?
Where are they?
Same division.
Bears 2-4. Well, I don't have. I just have the whole.
Oh, you have the whole list up. I thought you had.
No. Bears are 2-4.
Yeah, that's insulting to Green Bay fans. Just small nod of that. I would predict a rebound game for Dillon and Jones, more specifically Jones. I think that it's high tide that they go back to him as a little bit more of a building block for the offense and moving it. The advantage for Green Bay going into this is they have somebody who has relatively limited chemistry with the offense. Taylor Heineke is going to have to. He's never played a game with Jahan Dotson,
Right.
and he's only played a handful of games with Curtis Samuel because Curtis Samuel missed a large chunk of last season when Taylor Heineke was playing. So it's basically Terry McLaurin is his only experience there for the wide receivers. I'm interested to see how he starts the game for the Commanders. I want to see if Brian Robinson is the goal line back, is the RB1, if Antonio Gibson does more pass, if JD. I want to see how they balance that. Because I think Brian Robinson, based on last Thursday's game, he looks better than Antonio Gibson. I'm going to start Curtis Samuel because short pass works. There's no Logan Thomas. Somebody's got to do it. Curtis Samuel has had the most targets. I think he can snap into some type of rhythm with Taylor Heineke somewhat quickly. I'm actually going to sit Robert Tunyon, and that's because I think that he's going to be used more of a block. I don't think he's going to have. I don't think he's going to have 12 targets again. I don't think he's going to have. He'll have a few catches, but without a touchdown, he's not dependable this week. I don't think, in my eyes. Anything from you? Interesting notes.
Yeah, I think the rapport, the connection with Heineke and McLaurin may play into this game a little bit. Yeah, I think that McLaurin may actually have a decent game as opposed to what we've been seeing.
Yep.
We'll have to see. Obviously, game plan may not help that, but Heineke does actually kind of check it down the field. So we'll see.
Yeah, he can, and that would matter here. I assume Jair Alexander will be playing, and I imagine that is who he will be guarding. So interesting matchup there. I'm going to take Packers in that one.
Yeah,
I like the Packers. I don't think Heineke can come in. Although the Packers have been sluggish at a large chunk of the season, I don't see that being super beneficial right now. On to another board game, especially after the trade that happened yesterday. Buccaneers will travel to Carolina to take on what's left of the Carolina Panthers. Tampa Bay are 13-point favorites with an over/under of 39.5. The first thing I wrote was the Bucs need a win here to regain confidence, and then 2 hours later, Christian McCaffrey was traded, and the chances of that went to like almost, I won't say guaranteed, but they're pretty dang close. I don't see how Tom Brady loses to. Is it still PJ Walker?
yes, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He
that's great.
he had the neck injury, but everything says that
Cleared out. Yeah.
yeah, and he's starting.
So yeah. The Panthers have a 26th ranked rushing defense, 20th in pass defense. That doesn't work out well. PJ Walker. Oh, it does say I did put it here as PJ Walker starting again, so I could just read the sheet. It's not a great matchup for him to take a step forward. We know
No.
that. I would be surprised if they don't end up with and I mean the Bucks. I'd be surprised if the Bucks don't end up with like 4 or 5 sacks in this game. Bucks have allowed the 7th fewest yards to QBs, and we just saw PJ Walker throw like a grand total of 60 yards or something last week.
Yeah, I don't
It was
know.
bad. So yeah, barring some Armageddon-like miscues, like I don't even have any other words for it. This should be a blowout. I'm gonna take the Bucks. I don't think that's a surprise.
Yeah.
It's 39.5. I'm gonna go 27-10.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the Panthers scoring a whole heck of a lot here. If anything, honestly, it's probably a handful of field goals. The Bucks, this has to be a get right game for them.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, they need to regain their confidence, but they need to get this offense moving and going. I'm sure Brady feels the same way. He's pissed. They have their players back. I know we've been saying this all season. The offensive line is not great, but they have their pieces back. Brady should be able to get it done. I don't know if he's on the decline. I don't know if the divorce stuff is like weighing on him, but like this is a game that should go heavily in their favor. And we've had other games, maybe one or two this season so far, where we've said like Brady should play well, and they didn't. So I am a little wary, but I just don't see how this isn't a blowout in their favor.
I'm with you 100%. My start is Fournette because I think that's going to be the 26th in rushing defense. Line him up. Plus, now he's been used in the pass game. So even the first 2 or 3 drives, you could see him. Not only that, he's being used in the pass game in the red zone. So go for it. I'll still start Chuba Hubbard, and that's because I think he's going to be the only thing that has any type of success. I don't think there's going to be a lot of DJ Moore. Who's next? Shi Smith? Like, with a better quarterback, maybe, but
maybe Laviska. He's been a little hurt. If he's healthy, maybe they play him. But yeah, Shi Smith is really the only other guy. Yeah, I don't really like any of the tight ends on Carolina. Ian Thomas has been like a name, but
that's it. It's a name.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's there with a number on his jersey.
Yeah.
I put sit Foreman, but you can really sit every Panther who's like every other Panther, probably.
Yeah. Honestly, I think for a while it's like a 1A, 1B situation. Godwin's getting more targets, but I think Evans has a good game here.
Yeah, last week I picked Godwin, and like I think I went over this on Tuesday show, and he would have had the touchdown. He would have had a great game. He's getting the targets to catch up with Evans. Evans has played 3 more games than him now. 2 more games? I don't know. He's suspended somewhere there. But they're both risky on the blowout factor.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can put that, is I think you're going to end up seeing 5, 6, 7 targets anywhere in there for both them and Fournette. And then it's just going to be Leonard Fournette runs it twice. Rashad White runs it twice. Giovanni Bernard falls forward for 2 yards. Who else is left in the backfield? Who could they bring up from the practice squad? You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know. That's how I see that.
Yeah. Last name I'll throw out, and I said this before, K. Otten. I mean, other than Kyle Rudolph, they don't really have another tight end, and he's actually been he's getting some targets and doing some stuff. So.
And Kyle Rudolph does not exist in this offense. Like,
yeah. He's basically only a blocker if he ever plays.
As Gordon Ramsay would say, let's get that right, yeah. Let's see. We're gonna go on to our next game as I write some things down because I didn't write this down. Did you write any of these down?
I've been doing it as we're going.
Oh, you have? Okay.
I have this one, yeah.
This man's been cheating the whole time. Giants and the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Jacksonville 3-point favorites. The over-under is 43, and it is the first.
It's time to do
of our host v host games. You know what that means. I like this is going to be an interesting matchup because you don't really know. The best of the Jaguars could probably beat the Giants. The best of the Giants could hold probably anything but the best of the Jaguars to minimalistic points. We saw the Giants come back and beat the Ravens last week. Big shocker there. No cap. Really big shocker there. Giants defense has improved. They're the 8th ranked defense in holding teams to points.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of points allowed, they're 8th ranked.
Yeah.
8th least yards allowed to QBs. They've only allowed 7 touchdowns in 6 games. They're doing the right things. They're holding teams to field goals is basically how that works. Jaguars rebounded against the Colts last week, and they didn't win, but they had a better game. It was a step forward. You and me both agreed on Tuesday. That's what you need to see. You may not win it because of a throw that Alec Pierce caught with under a minute to go, but that's game script. So Christian Kirk found his way to the end zone. Jacksonville has used their successful run game, which I am not going to be as high upon this week. Saquon could have a big game. Jaguars are 7th in missed tackles so far this year through 6 games, and they have given up the 8th most passing yards to running backs, which I did not put in. I forgot to put that to running backs portion, but I remember that it was to running backs. So, and they've also given up the 2nd most receptions to wide receivers in the league. So, passing for them should be another good game. We said that with the Ravens last week, that the Ravens passing offense gives up yards, gives up completions. Another opportunity here. I like this game. Over under at 43. I like it right there.
Yeah.
I'm not far away from that in my head. I don't have a score, so I have to develop one as I talk about it. I'm starting Evan Ingram. New York Giants are allowing 10 yards per reception to tight ends. So he gets 4 or 5. I'll take 5 on 50 if he gets that 10 points for Evan Ingram. I'm going to sit Travis Etienne, and that is for 2 reasons. One, the defense that the Giants have placed upon the rush game. Kenyon Drake last week being an outlier. There's really no one else who could move the ball other than Kenyon Drake last week for the second half anyway. And also game script. If they're playing behind, which they very easily could be, I don't like Travis Etienne as much. Man, I'm gonna go Giants here, and I'm gonna go 23-20. I'm gonna keep it right at that over under. I'm gonna make a break. So, your opinion, your score.
I have the under.
Okay.
And I'm really weighing on Jaguars struggling here and there, and the Giants having an actually pretty good defense, at least so far. I wouldn't say that, like, I'd have to look at who they've played so far.
There's a guy that has a deep
I mean, other than Baltimore, maybe Tennessee. Dallas didn't have Dak when they played him. Like, I wouldn't say they've played any amazing offenses apart from Baltimore. And they still, like, that was not a high scoring game. So I think that the Giants defense actually continues to play strong and keep the score down. And then on top of that, the Giants have Wan'Dale Robinson back. Saquon's healthy and putting the team on his back. Daniel Jones, as much as I don't have faith in him, has been a very solid game manager.
Right.
And Daniel Bellinger starting to pick up some steam. So I don't know, on paper, it's pretty even. And then I'm just giving the tipping point to the Giants defense. So I have the under, and I have Giants 21, Jag 17.
Okay. Got ourselves the scores. Moving on to our next game. By the way, to start off, I have 73 points in our host v host. Taylor has 47.
Oof.
Taylor closed in. Yeah, but you closed in.
Last week, yeah, I did make a big.
My lead shrunk. So.
Yeah.
Browns, Ravens, the aforementioned Ravens. Baltimore is the favorite by 6.5 points. Over under at 46, which I think it's kind of high. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. Browns, Jacoby Brissett needs to pick it up. He went from being absolutely serviceable as a Deshaun Watson replacement to being forgettable. I'm sure they'd probably rather have Bailey Zappi. The Ravens' pass defense has been lackluster. They've given up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receiver at 26.6 per game. That is total. Also given up the 2nd most yards to wide receiver. So they kind of complement each other. Browns have given up the most touchdowns to running backs and the most fantasy points to running backs on the 14th most attempts, which means the run defense is not good. Not good. In the red zone specifically, but not good. Mark Andrews, I think, could be in for a solid game. Cleveland, they either have to focus on holding the run game, which might be a little easier with Kenyon Drake, but you're also going to end up leaving Mark Andrews to run rampant probably. In 5 of 6 games, let me see here. Yeah, there it is. In 5 of 6 games, the Browns have allowed over 60% completion percentage to tight ends, as well as 15 yards per reception to tight ends so far this year. I'm loading up Mark Andrews again. Don't be shy. I don't think you were, but if you were, no doubts here. My start is Donovan Peoples-Jones, slowly creeping his targets up. I brought it up last week. He's kind of become the 2 option. Like, there's not even really a kind of, like, you expected David Bell to have a shot at it, but it seems like it's mostly Donovan Peoples-Jones. Ironic that I'm also going to sit Jacoby Brissett because he's just done absolutely atrocious his last 3 weeks. So last 2 weeks more than 3, but he's on the decline, and I'm not a real huge fan of this matchup for him, especially if they start bringing pressure. Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones has steadily seen 80% snaps. David Bell actually has gone up too, but a lot of 3 wide receiver sets it looks like. So anything from you on this one? I'm going to take the Ravens again. I don't see how there's an easy way for the Browns to win this.
Yeah.
I still think I'm going to go under though. I don't like that 46. I'd probably take the under on this one.
I also like the Ravens, although they do have Bateman and Andrews as questionable. So if either of those guys, more so Andrews, if Andrews is out, I might actually take Cleveland. And then in terms of Cleveland receiving options, Njoku is kind of right there with Peoples-Jones for targets and snap share.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. He's a fair 2 to 3 option. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's see. Real quick, we'll go over one of the 4 o'clock games. I'm going to go to the Texans and the Raiders because I think there's actually a fair bit to talk about on the Jets Broncos. So we'll save that for part 3. Raiders and Texans. Raiders are coming off bye. Texans run defense has been less Swiss cheesy over the last 2. I mean, that's a rough word to use, but I still think Josh Jacobs is a must start. The other thing we talked about in the injury segment is that, so you have, let's say, worst case scenario, Renfro's out. You already know Waller's out. Matt Collins is out. You're still getting 10 or so receptions or 10 or so targets to Josh Jacobs. You have your 12 to 39 for Devontae Adams. And then there's Foster Moreau. If that would kind of make me rethink a lot of the dart throw options, even more so than I already was. But Jacobs has been more in the pass game. The Raiders defense, unfortunately, is middle of the road, which allows this game to probably be pretty close. I think 7 points. The Raiders are 7-point favorites at an over-under of 46. I think it could even be closer than that. Passing yards, first downs, rushing first downs, passing first downs, rushing first downs, all between 12th and 20th in the league. They don't really do anything exceptional, and they don't really do anything poor.
Yeah.
They're 15th in rush touchdowns allowed, but 25th in rush yards. So that leads me to believe Dameon Pierce will probably end up in the end zone at some point. Texans have applied some pressure at times, which I think is something they have to continue to do. Jerry Hughes, Camus Gruber-Hill, some of the more attacky defensive pieces. Again, attacky, the word of the day. They're 6th in hurry percentage because of that, which is interesting because they don't have a lot of interceptions. It hasn't really paid off yet. But when you have 6th in hurry percentage, I believe it's like 26% of times that they blitz, they create a hurry. So that's solid. 1 out of every 4. Brandon Cooks, I think, needs a big game to keep the Texans in this. Obviously, that would mean Davis Mills does as well.
Yeah.
But Nate Hobbs, Jonathan Abram, secondary entirely really for Oakland. They did okay at times against Kansas City. I believe that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. So that's a good comparison for what they're up against when they get Brandon Cooks, who's an excellent route runner. I'm going to start Foster Moreau. I don't really have anyone to sit. If I had to sit, it'd probably be the tight ends for the Texans because, again, Akins, O.J. Howard, who's Brevin Jordan, who's playing, who's snap, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start Foster Moreau because especially if Hunter Renfrow is out, Matt Collins less consequential. That'd be my start. Anything for you from this one?
Just that I totally agree. Brandon Cooks needs to get more involved. I do. So his shares and snap percentages have gone down. Conversely, Dameon Pierce snap percentages, carries have gone up. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think the team needs to sort of balance that out a little bit. Even if Dameon Pierce stays where he is, they definitely need to get Brandon Cooks more involved. Their passing game is hurting a little bit, and that's hurting the offense as a whole in turn. So Davis Mills needs to have a good game. They need to get more of the passing game. Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks, whoever else.
They need another target.
Right.
I'm going to say so. You know, what you're basically labeling out is that they've introduced Dameon Pierce as a threat. He is literally one of the top 3 in missed tackles since week 4 in all of the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Like he has the ability. When they were very close to winning the first 2 games, they were using Brandon Cooks a good amount, like you should your wide receiver 1, and then it was tight ends.
Yeah.
And you keep trust. Who's your tight end? Take one. Pick one. Pick any one. Throw a dart at a dartboard, and which one are you taking this week? There's the rapport there seems to be like holy, and then you have Nico Collins, who's not a bad wide receiver too, but also isn't. I don't know. He's serviceable, but he's not blow your socks off wide receiver 2 capability. So
yeah, and to that point, in the first 3.5 games, Chris Moore, who's not an amazing wide receiver, but he's another option, was
Right.
there, healthy, getting targets 3 to 4, and he's been hurt. He is still questionable for this game, but it sounds like he's trending towards playing. So that may also help, having another option to either take defensive. I mean, to your point, Vegas isn't an amazing defense,
10
but
seconds.
yeah, just to sort of shift things a little bit there. So
didn't mean to cut you off. We have to break for on the fantasy flyer. We're going to continue going over the week 7 slate. We're going to finish up our host v host matchups. And we're also going to give you the 5 fantasy flyers that you can trust for your fantasy lineups this weekend. Stay tuned. And welcome back to part 3, the final portion of this episode of the Fantasy Flyer, episode 14. We're going to start off this section. We're going to continue with the 4 p.m. games, but this will be the second of our host v host games, and that means it is time to duel. Denver is a 1-point favorite here in Denver. Over under is 38. Big question mark here, like we talked about, is Russell Wilson. I'm going forward as if he's playing. I think Taylor also agreed with that sentiment. Where do you start with this one? There's a lot of different stories going into this one. Elijah Moore, not playing. Doesn't want to play. He's taking his ball and going home if he can, wherever home might be, because it probably won't be with Jets unless they want him to sit out the rest of the year. It doesn't seem like he wants to play at all. Breece Hall has been their golden goose most of the year, specifically the last 4 weeks. He has kind of a strong matchup here. Denver's given up the 4th most receptions and the 14th most yards to running backs this season. For the Broncos, Russell Wilson trying to keep the recovering offense moving forward. I still think they're underscoring based on roster strength. I don't think I'm overstepping my bounds. You're nodding your head. Even with Greg Dulcich back, or Greg Dulcich here, he was never really there to begin with. His first game was last week, but hopefully that helps the offense kind of get something rolling. There was a little bit of turmoil with Melvin Gordon, who has been named the starter already for this game.
As he was last week.
That's true. Yeah, you can't put too much weight on it. It's almost like, yeah. I feel like when I'm watching this team, I feel like Russ sometimes takes the deep ball and then doesn't follow it up.
Mm,
So we've seen KJ Hamler have a couple deep passes. We've seen a couple 30-yarders to Jerry Jeudy. The 44-yarder to Greg Dulcich was a touchdown last week, but assuming that doesn't, end up, this may be the same story going forward. Russ, his average yards per catch is tied for fourth in the league. Frequency over totality. So if he makes short, concise throws, the team works better. It seems like he has less of a depth of pass when it comes to his. He's not taking enough qualitative throws, quality throws. Words are difficult still. We're getting there. It's all right. Maybe one of these days I'll go back to school. It's okay. Jets only blitz on 33 have only blitzed on 33 defensive plays through 6 games, which is like second lowest in the league. And yet they have created cute quarterback pressures on 26% of those.
it's a good
Actually,
percentage.
26% of the time. So entire snaps, not even their blitzes.
Right.
Yeah, their defensive line's good. Russell, we saw last week, was kind of scrimmaging around, moving around. I hope he can kind of do the same. His injury is what, a
Hamstring, yeah.
hamstring? Yeah. So that may be his downfall if he plays. The Jets can get to them. Yeah, we saw the Denver O-line not be amazing for a lot of the first few weeks either. So, do you have an opinion on Melvin Gordon with fantasy upside? Jets have given up 7 rush touchdowns in 6 games, but only give up 105 rush yards per game on average. Gordon's kind of been known as a little bit of a power back. So what's your take?
I'm honestly, just in terms of who's starting, I'm not really sure what to think. I don't know. I mean, Melvin Gordon himself said he didn't know why he wasn't playing. So I don't know if it's because of the fumbles. It's very strange because when Javonte was healthy, they were splitting time. And then last week he barely played and Boone didn't. I mean, I think Boone had a decent snap percentage. He had 36. Latavius Murray just came out of nowhere basically and took over as the main back. So I guess to answer your question, I'm leaning towards Latavius, but
Again, yeah.
yeah, but I don't know. I don't know who to play here, and I don't trust what Hackett's saying in terms of Gordon being the starter. But if he is saying that, I don't know that I'll play Latavius. So I don't want to touch any of this right now. I want to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, that's fair. Jets passing options are basically Corey Davis that's trustworthy, and that's it. I don't even actually, that's kind of a stretch.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson had the most targets but didn't haul him in, so it's 50-50. I think Breece Hall's the best Jet to trust.
Mhm.
For Denver, I will stick out a hand again for Greg Dulcich. He played 71% of snaps in his very first game. Most of them were routes run. Looks like 83% of his 71% snap count were routes run. That makes no sense. It's all right. Percentages of percentages. We're splitting the pie into smaller pies.
Yes.
But it paid off. He had 3 targets, which was tied for second on the team. So he did okay. And Albert O did not play. I think he was a healthy scratch. He wasn't injured. So look for Dulcich to keep going, I guess. There's no reason to believe otherwise. His first game back. I'm gonna take the start on Melvin Gordon just because of I think they can't depend on Latavius Murray all year. That's my take on that.
Yeah.
You've used Melvin Gordon in the pass game. You've used him in the rush game. He hasn't fumbled in 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I will say
Week 4, so that's 2 weeks, but still.
So his yards per carry going down the weeks, 4.8, 4.7, 2.17, 2.67, 3.6, 2.67. So they've been trending in the wrong direction. His yards per carry. Latavius Murray, his one game with the Saints 5.18, and his one game with the Broncos 4.4. So it seems like Latavius Murray still has some juice there. I don't know if that's what they were seeing in practice and that's why they're playing him, but it just kind of seems like Melvin Gordon's on the decline and Latavius Murray being the older back still has something. Again, I'm just very confused by this whole situation and I don't really want to touch it unless I have to.
Right. That's fair.
So I would play the receiving options, Sutton, Judy. Yeah, I like Brees Hall. That being said, both defenses are pretty good. The Jets are
I like the
actually
Jets
like
a lot better than
yeah.
the Broncos defense. Then the
No.
Broncos need to lock up. They are not doing it.
Yeah. I mean, like the rookie Sauce Gardner is playing well. The Jets with Zach Wilson back there aren't an amazing passing offense, but their running game is fine. And if Zach Wilson's playing, if they're keeping Zach Wilson to a more of a game manager, playing it safe with easy passes and whatnot, then that allows Brees Hall to continue to run, and their defense is keeping them in games. So I don't see this. I mean, neither does Vegas as a high-scoring game. And I guess that leads into my score. I think it's 17-19 Broncos if Wilson plays.
Well, you can't caveat it if he plays, and if he doesn't play, you got to take it now.
Come on, I gotta be able to cover my butt somehow.
I'm moving forward with the same if he's playing. I'm going to take the other side, though. I think the Jets are too.
I flip-flopped.
They're too, and I'm close. I'm actually not even close, really, but I'm taking again right there at 38, 22-16 Jets. I like the Jets, man. They have a different energy about them, and I mean, like you said, Wilson's not moving the offense amazingly, but he's doing something right.
Yeah, they just got to keep him from not throwing interceptions.
If he takes care of the ball like he's been doing, I mean, they just beat up a Packers team. Like, I look at it this way: would I take the Packers right now, or would I take the Broncos? I think that's a close game.
Yeah.
Right now. So yeah, there was a couple things that went the Jets' way last week, and they win by 17 points. That's worth a touchdown now, almost. That's the way I look at it. So I'm taking them 22-6. The Jets 22-16. You take Denver 19-17. I wrote that down right. Okay, because I wrote it backwards, and I don't put the lower score first because that's not how scores work. But I wrote it backwards. Anyway, moving on. We will go to the Seahawks and the Chargers. Chargers 5-point favorites. Highest over/under on the slate, 50.5. Interesting there. Seattle is allowing running backs to succeed. They're seceding from the nation.
That's wrong. You're not doing good so far.
They're allowing running backs to succeed. Eckler has been he's been going turkey, bologna, and ham sandwich the last 2 weeks. I don't see it stopping. I mean, the pass game's super trustworthy for him. If he has anything more than 6 to 8 carries, which he will, it's the lock, load, fire him out of the cannon 3 times over. For the Seahawks, I am super intrigued to see how they handle this Lockett Metcalf situation going forward. The targets have been somewhat consistent between the two. Last week, I said it on last Friday's show, sit Lockett. You could have sat both of them perfectly fine. I didn't like that matchup. Didn't turn out well. I like this one a lot better. It seems like the Chargers just like to give up some yards to the wide receiver at the worst times. I pick a little bit more of a Lockett side for this. If I had to pick a sit, it's Metcalf, but that's if I have to, because there really isn't a bad person to sit in this game. I'm not sitting Ken Walker, that's for sure. Definitely not sitting Eckler. I'm not sitting Mike Williams. I'll sit Carter if Keenan Allen's back, and that's in favor of Gerald Everett. Everett's my start right now. I'm assuming Keenan Allen, based on what he said, won't play, but if he does, I'm still not afraid to take Everett. His ceiling just goes down, I'd say 4 to 5 points. Geno Smith is still top 5 in completion percentage. Trust it. If for some reason Lockett or Metcalf, well, if Lockett doesn't play, fire up Marquise Goodwin. Huge fantasy flyer for that one for me. He has had, even in games where Lockett and Metcalf have played, he's had anywhere between 3 and 4 targets and some very deep balls thrown to him. So, what is your reaction to this offense? What do you do as a fantasy owner, in your opinion, if Keenan Allen comes back? Let's say you're the Mike Williams owner, and you have the option to pick up, not Keenan Allen, but let's say you have the option to pick up Gerald Everett at that point. Are you taking Gerald Everett over Mike Williams if Keenan Allen's back, or no?
I don't think so. As we said before, he'll be on a snap count, and I honestly would have assumed that, even if we
Anyway.
didn't read that somewhere.
Right.
So I think in the opportunities where Allen is out there, I don't know if he's as much of a decoy, but he's definitely going to draw attention, which only
Right.
helps Mike Williams.
I like that.
But I think to your point, Everett is still a good play if Allen is in, especially because of the snap count.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I'm going to take Chargers on that one. You?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I do think this is closer than
5.
than 5.
I could see a 26-23, 27-24 game.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, in that range. Next game, 49ers and Chiefs. I don't know how I almost forgot to add this onto our show plan. I missed this one, and I don't know how. Because this is probably, especially with the trade for Christian McCaffrey, this has to be the game of the week. Didn't make it a host v host. I wanted to do something a little different. We've had the Chiefs as 2 host v hosts. We had the 49ers for 1. I figured we'd mix it up a little bit. Chiefs 2-point favorites. Over under is 49. Mahomes takes on the number 1 defense again. The Bills last week were like the number 1 AFC defense, and now he takes on the number 1 NFL defense. In defensive efficiency, at least. Very good at kind of holding offenses to continuous adaptation, I guess is the best way. There's no one thing that they're really good at, but they're really good at all of it. So I think the lowest, San Francisco's defense is top 10 in like against all positions in terms of restricting fantasy production, which is basically directly correlated to yards and success.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes is 1-0 against the San Francisco 49ers in his career. He threw for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns and 115.6 QB rating. That will probably win them this football game because Jimmy Garoppolo still does not throw the ball as much or as deep as Patrick Mahomes does. I'm super curious to see because Christian McCaffrey, I imagine this week maybe he'll be an exception. He's going to play, but I imagine he's going to probably have somewhat of a split role with Jeff Wilson. I don't think he's going to just immediately dump head first, you think, right?
Yeah, so I think what I read was he'll probably just do the goal line stuff, and not just do, but like that's where he's going to get the most work.
Mm-hmm.
And the caveat being how much he's able to pick up from the playbook between yesterday and Sunday. So I wouldn't even count yesterday. I would say today being Friday, and so Friday and Saturday are his only 2 days to really like get to know the playbook. So that's like maybe he's out there for a handful of plays that are, I'll say, generic across teams or whatever, like stuff like that. But he's going to be more of a goal line guy, and maybe maybe they made like one interesting play that they try to use him on or whatever. So I don't think the usage is going to be insane like we're used to for Christian McCaffrey this week.
All right. Yeah, the pass game is going to look, like I said earlier in our 9 segment, the pass game is probably going to look vastly different. Maybe not this week because of the aforementioned snap count, but you can imagine those targets are going to come from somewhere. So, and he's not throwing it a lot to begin with. He's not throwing it 40 times a game, except for last week. Where I was surprised that I was actually right. That was a season high at 42 passes. The one thing that the 49ers are on is receptions to the running back. So dart throw on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're 15th in the league in yards and receptions to the running back.
I
Receiving,
mean, to that
especially.
point, McKinnon as well, since it
Yeah.
should be the receiving back, but honestly, he's
they've
only
been
been
using-
getting like 3.
Yeah, they've been using CEH more as the receiver, but the CEH also has like split with the run. So I'll take CEH for the favoritism that we've seen so far this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he returns to the end zone. It's been 2 games since he's been there. I'm going to sit Juju. You never sit Kelsey, but I'm going to sit Juju for 2 reasons. One, because I think there's actually a lot better wide receiver options that you could probably go with just across the landscape in general. But number 2, because Jimmy Ward's playing. So their secondary is slightly stronger. So I'll take that. Plus, they also have Eric Armstead back, who came back last week. Sunday night football game, Steelers at the Dolphins. Miami 7.5-point favorites, over under 45.5. It is Pickett versus Tua. Pickett was cleared and will start. Tua was cleared last week, didn't start, will start this week. Tua has the better arm. Tua has the better tools. Tua throws. Pittsburgh doesn't. Is there anything else we need to talk about? Pittsburgh does not defend the pass so well. They've given up 8 passing touchdowns through 6 games, and they've given up a total of 18. Oh, no, Miami's allowed the most touchdowns, at 18 so far this year. So I guess if that's one consolation, they're a little close in the terms of touchdowns they can score. That's probably why the over-under is so high. It's the only thing I can think. Obviously, guard Tyreek Hill.
Especially if Waddle's out.
Yeah. Freiermuth, helpful set of hands to have back for Pittsburgh. I'm still going to trust. I trust Miami to have a lead from most of this game, if not all of it. And for that reason, I'm starting Raheem Mostert. Sit Chase Claypool. He had a good game last week. His snap count did not go up.
Right.
His routes run did not go up. It's an outlier. Don't trust it. Especially with Freiermuth back. Freiermuth missed last week. No, so sorry. I'm going to sit Chase Claypool. He can take his missed time celebration somewhere else. Anything else from you on this game? I think Dolphins win this one, and I would not be surprised if it's over 7.5. I think Pickett has a much better game, even than it was shaping up against Tampa Bay last week. He was 5 for his first 5 with 41 yards and a touchdown on the first drive. It's hard to be better than 100%, but I think Pickett could, if you obviously staying on the field, I could see him throwing for 250, 275, a pair of touchdowns. Hopefully Najee Harris can get involved.
Yeah. I mean, I take Miami handily in this game. I guess I would say Miami's defense is
Porous.
Yeah, but honestly, I think they're better than we think. But I'm not going to say they're great. So against a Steelers team, Steelers offense with a young QB,
They're like just average enough to stand out.
Exactly. I think that like unless Pickett is just playing out of his mind, I think that the 7.5, that's not a bad line, but Miami takes this, no problem.
Is Minka back? Because that will also.
It's a good question.
I feel like the defense for the Steelers is also another thing that's keeping that from being like a 10-point over under.
Yeah.
And that would lead me to believe that Minka is probably playing. If he's not, then could be even closer, and I don't know why.
It does look like Minka might be playing.
That would make sense. Okay. Yep. There you go. So that would keep them, if they obviously play decent against Tom Brady, but you have a different set of skills here. There ain't anybody on that defense that can really keep up with Tyreek Hill. So
right.
Cheetah for a reason. The final game on our slate, Monday Night Football, Bears at the Patriots. It's your team, and we get to do.
It's time to do
the final of our host to be host. I didn't want to. I really didn't because the Bears are here. And I think it's well known over the course of this show in 6 full weeks, 13 prior shows, this one being our 14th, that I don't want anything to do with the Bears. And yet I wanted to spread it out a little bit. I wanted to also give I had a Cowboys game, if not once or twice. I think twice. I think I had week 1 against the Cowboys Bucks, and then last week Cowboys Eagles. And I felt that was 2 really good reasons to take this game because you haven't had a Patriots game yet for a host v host.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you know the team a little bit better. You know their strengths a little better than I do. New England is favored by 8 points. The over/under is 40. This will once again be Justin Fields versus the stifling defense. New England. Good God. Hold on, where is it? There it is. New England. Oh Lord. They have a 24.6 pressure rate, which is 10th in the league. It's not horrible at all. You can kind of chalk that up to a very growing defensive line. I see a lot of Matt Judon, who has a fair amount of pressures from his linebacker spot. Could very well be the case here. Fields, I think, is going to have to scramble a little bit more. You went vampire on me for a hot second. Loved it.
It's on a timer. I keep forgetting to turn it off.
It's all right. Fantasy outlook to me doesn't look great really for either team. I think with the Bears defense that has been slightly improved, you still have to deal with Roquan Smith, who I think is the big standout. The secondary's been solid. Jaquan Brisker is a growing rookie. I like him. Kyler Gordon was horrible in coverage for 5 games, and then last week was like, yeah, all right. It's okay. I don't know. I feel like the Chicago defense could hold them in this for a hot minute. But the Patriots just have a better offense all the way around. Bailey Zappi's proven it. Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Henry. It doesn't matter if Damian Harris plays or not. They have a really good running core. Not to say David Montgomery is not. But I think I'm going to take. There's no think. I'm going to take the Patriots on this one. It's just by how much.
Right.
My start is Devontae Parker. We saw him get involved 2 of the last 3 weeks. We talked about this on Tuesday. I'm taking him again this week. Lock load. I would take Devontae Parker over Juju if you're curious about one of the players who I would pick over Juju. That's where you can tell my ranking is. I'm going to sit any Bear that's not named Komet or Mooney. I am okay with you taking another stab at Mooney. He's had 2 back-to-back weeks of solid target shares, and Justin Fields doesn't throw for 242 yards ever, but he loads up to one deep one dude, Mooney, and it'll be fine. I think this is a game Komet can surprise some folks, but all in all, Patriots for me.
Yeah.
My score, I'll just give you my score before I let you take the floor for a minute. Let's see, New England, rated in my handy-dandy notebook. Hopefully that's not copywritten by Nickelodeon still. New England, over-under 40. I'm actually going to go over on that and buy probably a fair chunk. I'm going to go 28-15.
Okay.
Not really a fair chunk. It's 3 points, but
I'm struggling with the line of 8 in favor of New England. I know Chicago, like, their offense is not moving well, and the Patriots as of late have actually been doing pretty well, but I guess I do have reservations, concerns about a rookie, Bailey Zappi, in his 3rd game. Is that right? Maybe
3rd full game.
Yeah, 3rd full game. I love what I've seen from him. And I mean, he's only had more time with the ones, but he is a rookie. And unfortunately, they are bound to make mistakes. That's all to say that, like, I don't want to put too much faith in him. So I don't think they're going to lose this game by any means. I just don't think that, like last week, they had that 30-something point game against the Browns. And I do like the Patriots defense. Obviously, they've been able to keep teams in check to a certain degree.
Yep.
So I think I have it right on the nose. I have Bears 16, Patriots 24. Yeah, so that's right at 40.
Do you want to feel better about some things, even if you're right about Bailey Zappi? The Bears have given up the most rushing yards to running backs this year, 737 yards.
What's the number for the Pats? Because they're actually pretty good against the run.
Let me scroll further down the list for sure. 537 yards. Let me check the difference in stats. That is on 33 less attempts. They actually both have the same amount of targets against, and the Patriots have given up 3 more receptions. However, 1 less touchdown. So all in all, I would take the run game if I had to. Take the run game for any other reason. So, what was your score again? I'm sorry.
Bears 16, Patriots 24, and this is basically the Vegas number.
Right.
Yeah, it's exactly the Vegas number. I don't want to go too high here on the Patriots scoring. I don't want to inflate it based on last week, basically. But I like your Parker take. I also think Myers is a good take. One of those guys is going to have a pretty decent game. I don't know if they could both have a good game. I guess it's not out of the question, but we talked about Damian Harris at the top of the show, possibly being back. I don't know if they give him a little more time, and Ramondre Stevenson has another awesome game, or if they go back to the committee. But yeah, Patriots have definitely on paper a good setup here. So I think what Vegas has is pretty solid, and I know that's kind of the cop out here, but yeah.
I'll roll with it. That will finish up the Week 7 slate preview. We're going to go into our 5 fantasy flyers to wrap up this episode. I think we should each give 5. I think we should just do this. Do you want to put a host v host points on? We'll do the same thing like we did in our head-to-head matchup. Would that suffice?
Sure.
Okay. I'll make. Why don't we put up a solid 15 points? We'll put up 15 extra host v host points for this. We'll each give 5 fantasy flyers. Do you want to go back and forth? You want to go first? You want to go second? I'll give that one.
Yeah, we can go back and forth. Okay. How we never really talked about like position. Like obviously, if I wanted to pick 5 running backs, I could, but
keep it out of QB.
Keep it like don't do QB.
Yeah, no QB.
Okay.
I gave you Mariota last time because I didn't specify and I got lucky. So
all right. Well, then off the record, Brady. So then, all right, I'll start with Wan'Dale Robinson.
Wan'Dale, that's a great pick. That is a great starter pick. I'm going to start with Paris Campbell.
I like that as well. Yeah. And then actually, we were just talking about this. I've been going back and forth on Myers and Parker. I'm going to go with Myers just because he's a little safer in terms of he's usually pretty much a target monster for them.
Okay. I do not hate that at all. I'm going to go the happy tight end Foster Moreau. I think he's got some targets stuffed somewhere deep inside him.
Now this is where I start to struggle a little bit. I don't know how much you would say this is a flyer. I want to say Brian Robinson, but he's the number 1 running back on the team. So I don't know if I qualify that as a flyer.
I'll take it.
I just feel like in a way he does qualify as a flyer because that's not a strong team, not a strong offense.
We don't know what his ceiling is.
Right. We haven't seen much from him yet, but this is a good opportunity.
I'll take that. I think that's very respectable. I'm not going to go anything wrong with that. Who was the one that I just had in my head that I definitely did not? Oh, man. Like I want to, but I know it's not wise to. um, take Corey Davis is what I'm talking about. It's not.
I don't hate that. He,
I,
he
yeah,
has a
but
decent rapport with Zach Wilson. He did last season, and he kind of seems to be like the number one on the team. I mean, he's the most experienced, obviously.
I'll take Corey Davis, I guess. I hate that for myself, but I also have to take it.
All right. Who do I have here? I had, where'd he go? I'm gonna go with, he's been in our flyer section before, so feel free to nix this if you want, but I think I'm gonna go, you know what, I'm gonna nix it myself. I was gonna say Josh Reynolds. I'm gonna say Zay Jones to some of the stuff we talked about before.
Okay, I'm gonna take the Zay Jones route this week. I am gonna take, and I think this is more of a flyer because he's not a wide receiver one, or not a running back one, I should say. I'm gonna take Tony Pollard.
I like that. I don't know if this is true, but I kind of feel like he's the more explosive running back on the team.
It is. You're 100%. Zeke gets pass catching help, but what everyone's gonna forget or not forget, or if you're looking at that, you may overlook that Tony Pollard is also going to get pass catching help. And
Right.
the two, I mean, they've consistently been 60 to 65 versus 35-40 for the whole season. I
Yeah.
don't see why that would change, and that makes me like Tony Pollard against one of the worst defenses I've seen this century. So, yeah, like lock and load.
Yeah. Zeke's definitely been playing better, but I still feel like Pollard's breaking off the longer runs, catches when he's getting opportunities. I'm gonna do this just because I want it to come to fruition.
That's fair.
But I don't know how much I recommend this. Cade Otton.
Okay. Did you draft him in our league?
I did.
Okay. I don't hate that. I still don't hate that. So
yeah, I just feel like
definitely the fourth option, but if not fifth, depending on if Russell Gage is on the field. But
exactly. But he's
touchdown
like the
ceiling.
only tight end now, right? He's like the only tight end on the team now, and this should be a great opportunity for the entire offense. So
that leaves my last one, and I am between Donovan Peoples-Jones and
I
Gerald
almost
Everett.
mentioned him. Yeah.
So I'm going to pass on Donovan Peoples-Jones because it's still Jacoby Brissett, who's been doing less and less good. And I'm going to take Gerald Everett just because of the stats say tight ends are going to have. And I think regardless of the Keenan Allen situation, like you mentioned, there is a really good chance he's still in for some solid targets. There's no Donald Parham, who's been creeping
Right.
up the snap count board and has been getting more routes and more targets from Gerald Everett. No Parham. I wouldn't be surprised if he got 7 or 8 targets, ended up with 5 catches, 50 yards, and maybe he gets into the end zone. So that's my fifth. So to review, I have Paris Campbell, Foster Moreau, Corey Davis, Tony Pollard, Gerald Everett. Taylor has taken Wan'Dale Robinson, Jacoby Myers, Brian Robinson, Zay Jones, Cade Otton. I feel like looking at those two lineups, you have the boom bust lineup. And I have like the higher ceiling or higher floor, lower ceiling. You're probably going to get this type lineup.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, that's right. Let's say it's worth 15 host v host points on top of our host v host game.
Come back, kid.
This is so cool.
That's all I got for that. That's gonna wrap it up for this episode of the Fantasy Flyer. My name is Derek. I've been one of your astute hosts. Who's this person with me again?
Taylor Plimpton. What's up, Paul?
All right. Well, yeah, he goes, what's up, baller? We're going to have, as usual, okay, we're going to have Bob Barker sign us out. I'm going to play the tune. We're going to get out of here and have a good weekend of football. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. See you next week.
Good luck, everybody.
Bob
Peace out.
Barker reminding you, help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.
I can just see him walking down the aisle.
You really want him to walk down?
All right.
Take care, y'all.